In this day and age, as a sales professional, you're going to use Zoom a lot in your sales process. I mean, it's just plain and simple. We're in a different era right now. But how do you make sure you're being effective on Zoom, even if you can't see your customers, or even if you can see them? Today, we're going to talk about this concept. We're going to give you some ideas, and a lot of it's coming from this book by Julie Hansen. I know you're going to love it. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we're going to talk to the one and only Julie Hansen about her book, Look Me in the Eyes. Now, this book is like, as I mentioned in the teaser, we're going to talk about this concept of using Zoom and selling on Zoom, especially in this day and age. There's several things that you need to be doing to ensure that you're having an engaging conversation, even if your prospect can see you or not, because you know those scenarios. You jump on Zoom, you're talking to this person, or you have this appointment, and the person is just their name on the screen. You can't see them, you can't tell what they're doing, and you're hoping they're paying attention. Julie's going to break down everything that you need to do to make that an engaging and an effective meeting. Prospect, and he or she, they are not interested in turning on their camera. I feel so awkward at this point. Since I already started with my camera on, I mean, how do I go about communicating with a prospect when I can't even see them, but maybe they can see me? Like, let's start talking about that from the very get-go.
Sure. Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges I hear from salespeople, and it's valid. There is nothing you will do that will be closer to acting than talking to a camera when you can't see anyone, because that's exactly what thousands and thousands of film, television, video actors do. So obviously there is a way to do it, right? The problem is we just assume some people are good at it and some people aren't. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. It is a skill. Yeah. And first of all, we can't control what our customer does. We can certainly try to make it enticing to turn their video on and make it sound fun and friendly, but you can't pressure someone, and you certainly don't want to, especially on an initial sales call, right? Yeah. So you got to roll with the punches. But the value of you having your video on is huge, because they're not thinking, oh, they can't see me, right? It's not a logical thing. Mm-hmm. So you need to look at the camera as if you see them, as if they're looking at you and paying attention. And so it really is a technique that I teach, which is, seeing that person in the camera, visualizing them, and responding to them, to the reactions that you would anticipate. Because what happens is when we can't see someone, when they don't have their camera on, we assume it's this big black hole that we're talking to, right? Like for some reason we go to the worst possible scenario, like they're bored, they hate me, nobody's there, they're doing something else. And that brings out the worst in you, because what do? You rush, or you drop, you try to skip ahead or ask a bunch of questions, and, does that make sense? Yeah. Because you just need something from them.
You need validation.
And so, yeah, you need constant validation, which is really trying. It's not your customer's job to constantly validate you. Yeah. So to see them, to visualize them having the best possible reaction, which brings out the best energy in you. Because what happens when you're not talking to someone is that natural communication loop that we have when we're in person, when we can see someone, where we say something, the other person reacts, and then we react to that. That's broken. Yeah. Right? When that person isn't there, or we just can't see them because of where the camera is. So we have to replace that. We have to build that in, and just, first of all, allow that same space for your customer to have reactions, and trust that they are having a reaction. Yeah. Because what happens is most salespeople just talk. They just go into a long monologue because they can't see them, and so they don't want to pause, because if they pause, they feel like nothing's happening, and it's just a vicious cycle. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Any tactics or strategies to fight the temptation that I just want to stare down at my own face?
Right. Well, first of all, you should never have your own image on, because what happens is you'll be drawn to your image. And of course, nobody likes what they see when they see their image, right? Do you ever go, oh, wow, I look fantastic? No, you go, oh my gosh, what's going on with my hair? Oh, I got to sit up straighter. And so what happens? You're totally out of the moment. Yeah. You break that connection and you're self-conscious. So like during a call is not the time to be checking how you're doing, how you look. I mean, that's all pre-call. And then we don't use it as a mirror. That's not what it's for, right? Yeah. So do that pre-call. That's it. And then you have to let it go. And then you have to just trust so you can be in the moment and not get self-conscious. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is this, it is very counterintuitive to look at the camera because we are drawn to another human face, right? To set your camera up so that it's obviously as close to the images as possible is helpful, but that's rarely a direct fit. And because we read eye contact so precisely, if you're just like an inch off like this, and I'm talking to you, and you might think, who is she talking to, right? Yep. It's weird. The camera is that specific. Yeah. And we as humans we are born and raised to really read faces and read eye contact and read meaning into that. So it's important to be precise. Yeah. And direct. So I tell salespeople there's certain times where you really want to be looking at the camera. It doesn't mean we can't look away to get information, but for instance, when the other person is talking, which is totally counterintuitive, because if you were sharing your biggest problems with me and I was looking down, if we were in person, you'd be like, hey, up here, right? I'm talking here. And yet we see this all the time on video, which doesn't make it right. Yeah. It doesn't mean we've excused it. We're just like, but we don't feel like the person is that interested. You brought up a really important point is we don't think it's that important. And I just can't stress enough. If it's important in person, it's important on video. Like you would never do some of the things we do on video in person. No way. And we think that our customer is going to make excuses for us. Yeah. And they are not. That is not their job. That's your mother's job to make excuses for you, right? They're not going to go, well, she's probably checking her notes or no, they don't know you. They don't owe you anything, right? All they know is you look very distracted and not engaged.
And we are talking. What are some tips that you have for sellers to help boost that engagement factor?
And first of all, we have to understand that people behave differently on screen. Like, look at us. We behave differently. Like, we do things that we would never do in person. Yeah. And for whatever reason, part of the reason is when we get in front of a screen, we've been trained to be in what I call receiving mode, right? We're usually looking at something, reading something, typing something. But we're not usually engaging with other people other than we've started to. But it's an old pattern where, we're sitting in front of a TV screen, we watch. And so that's where our customers come to the table with. And so we have to break that cycle. And a couple ways you can do that is, first of all, to use the power of that camera, use the power of eye contact. Because what people will feel more engaged, they'll feel more compelled to respond if you are looking at them, which means looking at the camera. What I see a lot of times is salespeople, they'll ask questions and they'll ask it and they'll look at the screen, in which case I think, does he want me to answer that? And then I'll also think it could not be directed to me. If there's other people on the call, I think, well, probably, Bill will answer that. However, if I look at the camera and ask that question, everybody on the call will feel like I am speaking to them. So that's the power of video, is that everyone is having their own individual experience. So I can use that to make people feel, connected. Yeah. And if I ask that question in the camera and I hold it there, as opposed to quickly looking at the screen to see if anybody is going to answer, which is just nervous because we want that validation, right? And just trusting. If I look long enough, somebody will eventually fill that void, right? Yeah. And if you're the one to fill it every time, you have just trained your audience that they don't need to respond.
Julie Hansen, Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for the book and for bringing this to our attention for the community. We truly appreciate it, and we're grateful to have you. That was the one and only Julie Hansen, and we want to make sure you're looking us in the eyes. Take advantage of the things you learned on the episode today, and also go ahead and connect with Julie. If you have not done so, you can find her on LinkedIn. Also connect with me. You can find me there, Donald C. Kelly. You can find our Facebook group, the Sales Evangelisters, and our LinkedIn group. Both of those platforms would be a great place where you can get a chance to connect with some other sellers in our community. I want to tell you all of these things. I want to bring folks like Julie on a podcast because I want you to succeed. I want you to thrive. I want you to find more of those ideal customers. I want you to know what to say when you're reaching out to them. I want you to close more deals. I want you to take advantage of the things that our sponsors are offering because they're giving away amazing insights and amazing content, amazing tools that can help you in your sales effort. But most importantly, I want you to raise your level of thinking. Check out Julie's book and go out and do big things. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up at the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.